Imagine two people. Both begin learning English at exactly the same time. 5 years later, however, one of them can comfortably hold conversations with native speakers. The other, however, still hesitates before answering, still translates every sentence, still says, "I understand English, but I can't speak." Now here's the strange part. The second student did not quit. They studied every single week, sometimes every day. They finished textbooks, completed grammar exercises, watched YouTube videos, memorized vocabulary, passed exams. They did everything they were told to do. So here's today's investigation. How can someone do almost everything right and still fail to become fluent? Is the learner the problem, or is the system? Welcome to LinguaFox Investigation Series, Season 2 of LinguaFox Podcast, your shortcut to fluent speech. Before we begin, I want to make something clear. This is not another English lesson. I'm not here to give you 5 vocabulary tricks, 3 pronunciation hacks, or 7 secrets to fluency. There are already thousands of videos like that. This session is different. Every episode begins with a question that millions of learners accept, almost without ever investigating. Instead of collecting advice, we are going to examine evidence. We'll compare research, we'll challenge assumptions, and sometimes we'll discover that we were wrong. Because language learning deserves something better than opinions. It deserves investigation. Every mystery needs a suspect. The first suspect in line is motivation. Whether someone fails to become fluent, people immediately say they weren't motivated enough. Sounds reasonable. Except there's a problem. Millions of motivated learners still fail. Think about it. People pay thousands of dollars for courses. Wake up at 6 in the morning, study after work, take notes, review vocabulary, listen to countless podcasts, practice on weekends. Does that sound unmotivated to you? Not really. So perhaps motivation is not the culprit. Maybe motivation is only part of the story. Maybe they simply didn't know enough words. Again, sounds reasonable. But let's investigate. Research suggests that educated native speakers know tens of thousands of vocabulary, word families, etc., while learners can often understand a great deal of everyday conversation with a much smaller active vocabulary. The gap between knowing more words and using the words you already know is often more important than people realize. Have you ever forgotten a person's name, even though you've known it for years? The information existed. You simply could not retrieve it. Language works similarly. Learning words and retrieving words are not the same process. So maybe vocabulary is not the bottleneck. Perhaps the grammar is the problem. After all, that's what most classrooms spend years teaching. But here's the paradox. Millions of learners can explain English grammar better than they can actually speak English. They know present perfect, they know the conditional sentences, passive voice, relative clauses, and yet ordering coffee becomes a little stressful. Why? Because communication does not happen at the speed of grammar rules. Conversation happens in milliseconds. Your brain does not have time to remember page 126 of a grammar book. What it needs is something else. Automaticity. This is where cognitive science becomes interesting. When psychologists study expertise, whether it's music, sports, medicine, or chess, they find something surprising. Experts don't simply know more, they retrieve faster. They recognize patterns faster. They make decisions faster. Language is no different. Fluent speakers are not constantly calculating grammar. They are recognizing patterns built through meaningful use. The goal is not to know every rule. The goal is to make communication increasingly automatic through repeated, meaningful practice. Now let's ask a difficult question. If speaking develops through communication, why do so many classrooms spend most of their time avoiding communication? If retrieval strengthens learning, why do learners spend far more time rereading than recalling? If mistakes help build skill, why are students so afraid of making them? Notice something. The contradiction is not inside the learner, it's inside the system. Maybe we've misunderstood what studying is. Studying is not highlighting. Studying is not watching videos. Studying is not finishing another textbook. Those activities can help, but they don't automatically become learning. Learning happens when your brain has to retrieve, connect, notice, adapt, and use what it knows in meaningful context. That's a very different process. So perhaps fluency is not built by accumulating information. It's built by transforming information into usable skill. Today's investigation is not telling you to throw away your grammar books or delete your vocabulary apps or stop studying. It's asking a different question. What percentage of your study time is actually helping you become someone who can communicate? Because there's a profound difference between collecting knowledge and building ability. And perhaps that's why millions of learners feel stuck. Not because they're crazy, not because they're incapable, but because they've confused studying with learning. If there's one idea I hope you remember from today's investigation, it's this. Studying is not the same as learning. You can spend hundreds of hours surrounded by English without changing how your brain uses English. You can know thousands of words without being able to retrieve any single one of them when you need them. You can understand every grammar rule and still hesitate to speak. Fluency is not something you memorize. It's something you gradually construct. One meaningful interaction, one retrieval, one correction, one conversation at a time. And maybe, just maybe, the question was never, why can't I become fluent? Maybe the better question is, am I practicing the kinds of thinking that fluency actually requires? Because better questions lead to better investigations, and better investigations lead to better learning. I'll see you in case file 2.